Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. We are going to be doing a DIY sunflower two-piece set. I really want to take some fall-like photos and I had some old and unused lingerie laying around, so I decided why not do something with it. And then I had this idea of putting a bunch of flowers on it, so I sketched it out on my iPad and I found a bunch of old flowers in my arts and crafts space, but I also bought some flowers as well on Amazon. The basic items of what you're going to need is ribbon, some glue, and I have these flowers, scissors, and lingerie or some type of bikini set. And the first step would be to remove all of the stems and the greenery from the flowers, so that way you're working with a flat surface underneath. And honestly, it would be even better if you can find flowers that don't have any stems on the bottom. I tried searching for some and I couldn't find any, but let's get into the ribbon step. So right here, I didn't even necessarily measure how long I wanted the ribbon, but the goal is to get bows on the sides of the bottoms. I pretty much just eyed where I wanted it to be and estimated how long I wanted the ribbon to be, and I cut out about maybe 8 pieces. You'll need 4 for the bottoms and 4 for the top as well. I did end up cutting mine pretty long, but it's okay because I can always go back and adjust the length later on. I did end up cutting extra smaller pieces for this next step that we're going to get into, and this next step is optional, by the way. This is specifically if your lingerie or your two-piece does not match the flowers. I wanted to cover up the sides, so I glued some ribbon on the sides just in case in the photos, if I turned, I didn't want the blue to show. If you have a set that matches the flowers, then this won't really be necessary. Right here, I'm just laying it as close as possible and trying to cover up as much blue as I can. Also, if you notice as well, the flowers are already on the top. That's because I forgot to add the ribbon on the sides before I started gluing the flowers. So just a tip, I recommend if you are doing this step to add the ribbon on the sides first before you start gluing the flowers on. And this is how it looks. So now for the next step, we're going to get into gluing the ribbon on the straps so that way we can make bows on the sides. I am starting with the bottoms first. The bottoms, of course, were a lot easier to glue, and it doesn't really matter which ones you start off with first. And as far as glue, I ended up using this E6000 glue, and later on, I switched to some fabric glue. This says it can be used for fabric as well, but I wanted to see which one worked better. And I didn't have the fabric glue in the beginning because I couldn't find it, but I ended up finding it later on. Honestly, I would say that maybe the fabric glue worked just a little bit better because it dried a little faster. This one, you definitely have to let it sit so that way it can dry properly, otherwise it's gonna move out of place. This next step is the same as the last. We're just going to go ahead and glue the ribbon onto the top so that way we can make bows on those straps as well. So I glued the first ribbon a little bit right above where you can adjust the strap of the bra. And I did this just in case I would need to adjust the top later on. And the next ribbon I am gluing in the front, right where the strap of the bra starts. And after the gluing portion, you can go ahead and let this dry for a bit as well. So now we're checking our progress so far. It has dried and I just went ahead and tied the bows just so I can get like a visual of how it's gonna look. I also do want to recommend trying it on in between as you're making it, just so you can see how much room you're working with. I do also recommend to possibly go a size up in whatever set you use. When you glue the flowers onto it, it does become tighter. And now we're going to get into the next step, which is gluing the flowers on. Again, it doesn't matter which one you start with first. This time I just decided to go ahead and do the bra first, and I'm using fabric glue this time. I will say it was pretty difficult sticking on there because the set that I used is a mesh material. The glue was seeping through, which is why I had cardboard underneath, but I ended up switching to parchment paper later on because it started to stick to the cardboard. But here I'm just placing as many flowers as I can and pretty much essentially doing the same to the bottoms as well. And again, I mentioned earlier trying it on in between, because as you try it on, especially if you're using mesh material like I did, you might notice that you missed some spaces and we'll have to go back in to include more flowers. This is also needed just in case any flowers fall off during the try on process. And I would say this took me about 4 days to complete, but here are the end results. And this is how it ended up turning out. I only decorated the front since that's all I would be showing. You can do the back if you feel the need to do so, but I loved it and it turned out super cute. And here are the photos from my self photo shoot that I've posted on my socials. Tag and let me know if you decide to do this project, and thanks for watching.